先和你弄清看没有？
我不要 Virtual Background。
啊。
妞妞是上什么课啊？
那里的那个课。
我的脚底很痒，我帮我吹。我的脚底很痒。
知道。
你能帮我抠痒痒吗？
我现在有空吗？
在。
来吧。
能帮我抠痒？你睡来了吗？有。你有没有啊？我睡来了。可是牙刷还是很黄啊。这踢脚很难吹啊！我的嘴巴都吹疼了。
我知道。他来了没有？还没有来呢。
为什么我是 host？
因为爸爸开的那个东西。几点起来了你？刷牙了吗你？
没有。
去刷牙。去刷牙，先刷牙。刷牙，不然嘴巴这个气球都是嘴巴都臭。什么？
他这么早起来干什么？ Excuse me，为什么我的这个我每次竖起来竖？
哎，怎么还没来？
给你爸爸，给你吹，给你吹，给你吹，给你吹。
来了，在这边等待，知道吗？
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
大声一点吗？你可以看到。
吹完了吗
How are you?
I'm fine.
You're fine. I'm glad to hear it. Is it morning?
Yes.
Yes. Did you have breakfast? Not yet? What will you have for breakfast? Will you have chocolate?
Cereal.
Is it chocolate cereal? You had chocolate cereal before? I remember seeing chocolate cereal there. Everyone was eating chocolate cereal. You and your brothers.
We have chocolate cereal and star cereal.
Oh, star cereal.
Honey.
Oh, it's honey?
Yes.
That sounds delicious. How do you eat the cereal? Do you eat it with milk or just by itself? With milk?
We
Yeah, that's my way to eat cereal too. Ooh. Well, let's see. The last time. Oh, wait.
milk.
Oh. Let's see. The last time we were reading, John Midas in The Chocolate Touch wanted to eat breakfast too. He wanted to eat chocolate-covered banana slices. He loves bananas. So he wanted some chocolate-covered bananas. They're called banana surprises. Uh-oh, can you hear me? Are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, there you are. I see you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes! Oh, phew. Can you see the book?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm so glad. Let's see. So the last time we read Laksha, John Midas. What is that? Is that epic?
Yes.
Did you find my book? Did you find the book?
No.
Oh, good. I'm glad because I wanted to read it together. And I know that you read so quickly that you would have it finished in a minute. And then I wouldn't get to enjoy it with you. So let's see. We were up to, turn the page, turn back. Mr. Midas looked at Mrs. Midas, and Mrs. Midas looked at Mr. Midas. They both shrugged their shoulders. Sometimes it was hard to make John understand things. So let's see. At home, while Mrs. Midas was busy in the kitchen, Mr. Midas continued to reason with John. You mean you'd rather eat candy than anything else, and chocolate rather than any other kind of candy? Mr. Midas asked. Yes, John assured him. Oh, yes. Don't you think there's such a thing as enough? Mr. Midas persisted. Don't you think that things are best in their places? I mean, don't you think there's a time for spaghetti and a time for roast beef and even a time for pickled herring and garlic toast, as well as a time for chocolate? Or would you rather have chocolate all the time? Chocolate all the time, John replied emphatically. Do you remember that was like really excited? Chocolate's best, that's all. Other things are just food, but chocolate's chocolate. Chocolate? Oh, I think I understand. Mr. Midas broke in sharply. Very well. He took a deep breath and went on. John, he said, if you can't understand what sort of diet is really best for you, can't you at least get it into your head that you make your mother very unhappy when you eat so much candy that you can't eat anything else? The conversation always seemed to get around to the effect of John's candy eating on his mother. John couldn't see how it could possibly do her any harm if he ate candy. He sat silent for a moment. Then he said, May I go out to play, please, Daddy? I don't think he got it, Langsha. Your turn.
It was Sunday afternoon. The sun was sinking low in the sky, but the air was still quite warm. John was wandering along in the direction of Susan's house, absent-mindedly looking down at the sidewalk, when his eyes were suddenly caught by a dully gleaming silver-grey coin lying right in his path. The coin was about the size of a quarter, but even as he leaned forward eagerly to pick it up, John noticed there was something strange about it. It did not have the picture of George Washington or a picture of an eagle. On one side there was a picture of a fat boy. On the other side were the letters J.M., which was funny, John thought, because those letters happened to be his initials.
Oh, look, wait, go back to some initials. That's the word, initials.
Because those letters happened to be initials.
Good. Like my initials are the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name. So my initials are NS. What are your initials? What's the first letter of your first name? L?
LC.
Right. In English, your name would be your first name, what everyone calls you, and then your last name. So your initials would be LC. Or you say it the other way, don't you? You put your last name first and then your first name. Do you do it like that? CL? Yeah, those are your initials. So the initials on the back of this coin said JM, which is funny because his name is John. Oh, I need a pencil, please. John Midas. Huh. And on the front of the coin was a picture of a fat boy. Huh. That's interesting. Reminds me of Magic Treehouse a little bit. Okay, let's see what happens next. Grasping the coin firmly, he ran on toward Susan's house. She liked to collect things. He thought she might be interested to know that he had the beginning of a coin collection. Although he was in the habit of going over to Susan's by the same route every once or twice every day, this afternoon John found himself turning left where he usually turned right. I always go the same way, he thought. This time, for a change, I'm going a new way.
He didn't stop to consider that you cannot go east by going west unless you go all the way around the road, only 2 blocks along the unfamiliar street. John came to a small corner store. It was a neat red brick building with 2 big show windows. They were full of all sorts of candy. Susan was immediately absolutely forgotten. John pressed his nose against one of the windows. He was imagining the taste of chocolate-covered almonds and chocolate filled, and on the other side of the glass when he noticed a man in a white apron standing behind the counter and beckoning to him. John was surprised. He hadn't expected the store to be open on Sunday. "Don't just stand there in the doorway, John," the man called heartily. "Come on in and get some fresh, sweet, creamy chocolate. There's a special sale today."
Oh, the man knows him? He's never been there before, and he called him by his name. This is getting very peculiar. How did the man know his name? John wondered. He couldn't remember ever having seen the store before. The storekeeper saw John hesitate. The chocolate I use in my kitchen comes direct from the heart of Africa, he said. I use none but the finest ingredients, and my recipes, well, I bet you've never had chocolates like mine before. Come on in. Your turn. Go ahead, Laksha.
"Thank you," John replied, walking to the counter. "But you see the trouble is, well, no money." "No money?" the storekeeper asked. "No money whatsoever? What have you got there in your right hand?" John had forgotten the old coin in his hand. "Oh, this is part of my coin collection. I mean," he added more honestly, "I'm going to save this coin and then get some more to make a connection." "Let me have a look at it," the storekeeper said. He looked briefly at the coin. "Aha!" he exclaimed. "Is it any good?" John asked, his hopes suddenly rising. "Very good. In fact, it's the only kind of money I accept, but I don't suppose
Oh, go ahead. I was excited about the story.
that you want to spend it on a whole box. I imagine you'd rather keep this for a coin collection than spend it on a chocolate, would you?"
Oh, no, John said. Chocolate any day. Go ahead then, help yourself, the storekeeper said, pointing to a heavily laden show table piled high with large cellophane-wrapped candy boxes, all exactly alike. You mean I can have one of these? John asked, his eyes round with surprise. The candy boxes were as big as one his father always brought home at Christmas time. Just help yourself, the storekeeper assured him. That is, unless you think it might be better to ask your mother first. Your turn.
"She wouldn't mind," John said hastily, and blushed. The storekeeper winked knowingly. "I'm sure she won't, not in the long run anyway." John tucked one of the large boxes under his arm, declined the storekeeper's offer to wrap it as a gift, thanked him, and hurried out of the store before there could be any question of anyone's changing his mind. The storekeeper smiled as he watched his customer hurrying away down the street.
Very good. Go ahead.
John decided that it might be sensible to enter his house quietly by the way of the kitchen. With the large candy box hidden behind him, he let himself in by the back door and crept up the kitchen stairway on tiptoe to his own room on the top floor. Just as he was about to round the corner on the second floor to continue his way upstairs, he had to stop for a moment while his father walked by, coming along from along the hall from the bedroom telephone. There was Mrs. Buttercup on the phone. Mr. Midas called to Mrs. Midas. She said she was sorry John hadn't been able to get over to play with Susan. No, but it was a good thing in a way, she thought, because Susan's already so excited about the birthday party tomorrow. I wonder where John can have got to. As soon as the second floor was quiet again, John knew there was no danger that his candy box would be seen. He hurried silently up to his bedroom, pushed open the door, and slid the box under the bed. Then he walked heavily down to the living room. Well, there you are. We couldn't imagine where you had been. What have you been doing? Oh, just sort of playing around, John said.
Just sort of playing around. John usually took a long time to put his things away and undress and bathe and get ready for bed, for he thought sleeping was a waste of time. But this evening, he started yawning long before his usual bedtime. Sleepy, John announced. All right, said Mrs. Midas. You'd better be getting to bed. Time for your tonic. John's tonic came in a bottle. It had been prescribed by Dr. Cranium. John had to drink a big spoonful every night to make up for all the vegetables and fruit he left on his plate at lunch and dinner. The tonic tasted like soap, mud, glue, ink, and paint. It tasted horrible. Much to Mrs. Midas's surprise, John ran ahead of her to the dining room cupboard where the tonic and the tonic spoon were kept. By the time she got there, he had already filled the spoon. Then, without any coaxing, he emptied it into his mouth. Ah, John spluttered. Oof! Ah! That's a very good boy, Mrs. Midas said. Now, why can't you be sensible and eat up your nice dinner that way? If you'd only stop eating so much candy, you'd be able to eat your meals properly, and you wouldn't need to take the tonic.
Soon John was scrubbed and in his pajamas and in bed, ready to be tucked in for the night. Mrs. Midas sat on the bed and stroked his forehead for a moment. Then she leaned forward and kissed his cheek. John, pretending that he was very sleepy, shut his eyes and began breathing deeply. When Mrs. Midas rejoined Mr. Midas in the living room, she said, "I've never known John to be so good about going to bed before. He went to sleep in no time." A few seconds after the bedroom door had closed behind his mother, John leaped to the floor, got down on his hands and knees, and felt under the bed for the candy box. He soon had it on the pillow and set to work unfastening it. First, he took off the thin outer sheet of cellophane. Then he lifted off the lid. Then he removed a sheet of cardboard. Then he pulled off a square of heavy tinfoil. Then he took out a layer of shredded paper.
Oh my, it's really wrapped up.
As the wrappings piled up around him, John became rather anxious. At last he came to a small central ball of cotton bedding. Then right in the middle was a golden ball. He picked at the ball with his fingernail and peeled away the golden paper, revealing a tiny piece of plain chocolate. It was the only piece of chocolate in the whole box. Deeply disappointed, John nevertheless put it into his mouth. He had never tasted chocolate quite like it. It was the most chocolatey chocolate he had ever encountered.
Wow. So he had a big package in a sheet of cellophane, all wrapped up. Where's my wrapping? All wrapped up, and inside that there was a lid, and inside that was a piece of cardboard, and inside that was more stuffing, and inside that was more foil, all for this one little piece of chocolate. I would be disappointed, but he wasn't disappointed because it was delicious. Clear my drawings. Let's see what happens next. The birds were chirping outside in the tree. The birds were chirping in the tree outside John's window, and the sky beyond was deep blue. The bedroom door opened a few inches. Hey, Sleepy, Mrs. Midas called. Everyone else is up. Is it still bedtime, Longsha?
No, it's morning.
That's right. John put on his bathrobe and slippers and ambled into the bathroom. His sister, Mary, was still brushing her teeth, and he had to wait until she was finished. Come on, Mary, he said a little crossly. Don't take all morning. Here you are, Mary said, handing him the toothpaste tube. While Mary soaped her face, John squeezed a little of the toothpaste onto his brush. The paste was pink. John made a face at his toothbrush. It didn't seem fair that he should have to brush his teeth with stuff that tasted just like his tonic. A stinky taste, he called it. John opened his mouth and pushed in the end of the toothbrush. As soon as it touched his front teeth, he noticed a delicious sweetness in his mouth, a taste of the best kind of chocolate. He pushed the brush to and fro, and the taste seemed to grow stronger. He removed the brush. The bristles were brown. What kind of toothpaste is this? John asked. Mary was drying her face. The same kind, she answered. It says on the tube. Blanco Dent, John read. It was the same kind they always had. Why is it chocolate flavored this time? He asked. Boy, it's good. Silly, Mary said.
Course it isn't chocolate. She hung up her towel and swished out of the bathroom. John squeezed some more toothpaste onto his brush and continued to brush his teeth. Chocolate again. It was marvelous, rich, sweet, smooth chocolate, chocolatey chocolate like the single piece of chocolate from the box the night before. There seemed to be no further need for a toothbrush, so John rinsed it and hung up. He squeezed out another bit of toothpaste on a fingertip this time. He put the finger in his mouth and ate the toothpaste out. When he took his finger out again, it was stained chocolate brown. John wasted no more time. He put the end of the toothpaste tube in his mouth and emptied paste to his tongue. He squeezed out like thick, creamy chocolate. Mary looked into the bathroom. Hey, what are you doing? She demanded. Yummy, was all John said. John and Mary were a little late getting into the dining room, and Mr. Midas was already on the way to his train. When they sat on the breakfast table, John ate out all the toothpaste. Mary told their mother.
Oh, you sneak, John whispered. Well, you did, Mary reminded him. And that's a waste. Isn't it a waste, Mother, to eat up all the toothpaste in one day? Mrs. Midas was serving their orange juice. Mary, really, she said. I'm sure John was only joking. He must have been pretending to eat the toothpaste. No, he wasn't, Mary insisted. I was watching, and I saw him squeeze it right into his mouth. He said it was chocolate. Oh, dear, protested Mrs. Midas. Chocolate again? Now I know it was just a joke. He wished it was chocolate, Mary. Come on now, drink up your orange juice, both of you. Your bacon and eggs will be ready in a minute. As Mrs. Midas left the room, John took up his glass of orange juice and put it to his lips. As soon as he tilted it and the liquid began to flow into his mouth, a happy look came into his eyes. Boy, that's good, he said at last, lowering the empty glass. Chocolate juice. Mary looked at John. Then she looked at her glass of orange juice. It was a bright orange color. She tasted it. It tasted like orange to her. It's not chocolate juice, she said. It's orange juice. Orange juice is good for you. Yes, John, Mrs. Midas said, hearing the last few words as she carried in the tray of bacon and eggs. You must drink your... She caught sight of John's empty glass. John, she said, you good boy. That's the first time in ages you've finished your orange juice without having to be told to. It tasted of chocolate, John explained. Your turn.
All right, Mrs. Midas said. Very funny, but don't tease Mary too much. Remember, Mary's younger than you are. John silently picked up his fork and sliced the yolk off his fried egg. The yellow broke over the white and shivered as he watched it, as he always did. I can't eat this, he told his mother. Of course you can. You drank from your orange juice. Try to eat your bacon and egg. John scraped up a small piece of egg and put it into his mouth. It immediately became chocolate white and chocolate yolk, both lovely chocolate. John mumbled, chocolate egg. In almost no time, he had finished every scrap of egg on his plate. Then he tried the bacon. The bacon turned to chocolate too. John had never before enjoyed his breakfast so much. After the orange juice that had turned to chocolate juice in his mouth, and the fried bacon and the egg that had turned to fried chocolate, he ate 2 slices of chocolate toast with chocolate butter and chocolate marmalade, washed down with a glass of chocolate milk. I'm very pleased with you this morning, Mrs. Midas said, as he helped John with his coat. If you promise to eat your lunch at school as well as you ate your breakfast, I'll give you a dime to buy some chocolates with. Oh, that's right, John said. I don't think I need it. Mrs. Midas looked puzzled as she waved goodbye.
Very nice. Could you imagine if everything you ate tasted like chocolate? Chocolate eggs, chocolate bacon, chocolate rice, chocolate cereal, chocolate. John had the bad habit of chewing things when he was thinking hard. Well, this morning, he had several things to think about. What had made the toothpaste taste like chocolate? What had made the orange juice taste like chocolate? What had made the bacon and egg taste like chocolate? What had made the toast and butter and marmalade taste like chocolate? Each one of these things had felt the way it had always felt before. The toothpaste had been soft and pasty. The bacon had been hot, crisp, and oily. The toast had been crunchy, and the marmalade sticky and lumpy. But everything had tasted like chocolate he had eaten in bed last night. John put a gloved thumb in his mouth and thoughtfully chewed. His mother had frequently pointed out to him that chewing his gloves made little holes that let in cold air, but he chewed them just the same when he was thinking hard. This time, he noticed something very queer about the thumb of his glove. Instead of tasting leathery, it tasted like chocolate. John pulled his thumb out of his mouth. Whoops. The part of the glove that had been in his mouth was now brown instead of black like the rest. Your turn.
He bit the end of the leather thumb again. It came right off in his mouth, leaving his own thumb bare. John chewed, and it was like chewing leather made of chocolate, leather that melted like chocolate. In a second or two he had swallowed it. The ropes were not new, but John had had them quite a while. He couldn't understand why he had never thought of eating them before. He tried to cut off one of the fingers, but the leather was too strong for him. He put it in his mouth and it immediately turned into chocolate. Then he was able to break it off easily. He popped it into his mouth and chewed it up and swallowed it. It was delicious. Walking along devouring his glove, John did not notice one of his schoolfellows, Spider Wilson, until he heard his voice. "John's gone crazy!" Spider yelled. Then he turned on John. "Don't they feed you where you live?" he sneered. Spider was in the grade above John and was one of the meanest and slyest boys in the whole school. John gulped down a large piece of the second glove's palm and looked pleased. "What's the matter? Do your people make you eat leather?" "This is special leather," John replied. "It turns into chocolate as soon as you put it in your mouth. Look!" "Look!" He bit off the glove's little finger and took it out of his mouth. "Now it's chocolate." He put it back into his mouth and gulped it down. "Give me a piece," Spider said.
Do you think it'll work?
"No."
Well, let's see. Why should I? John wanted to know. My gloves. Hand over a piece, Spider said. Do I eat your gloves? John asked reasonably, his mouth full of chocolate. Why should you eat mine? Those aren't real gloves, Spider said. Whenever one person has candy, he has to share it with the others. That's the club rule. What club? John asked. Never mind what club, Spider said, but you'd better let me have some of that chocolate. Without waiting longer, Spider snatched what was left of the second glove. John was too surprised to resist, and he didn't want to anyhow. He had a feeling that he had enough chocolate for a while. He was getting a bit thirsty. Spider ran only a little way ahead. When he saw that John wasn't going to fight to get the glove back, he started to eat his prize. He stuffed the leather into his mouth and took a big bite. Spider stopped short in his tracks. He frowned and bit deep into the glove again. Disgusting! It tasted worse than just leather. It tasted like leather with which a boy had made mud pies and snowballs and patted old dogs. John thought perhaps he might be getting late for school, so he started running. He left Spider Wilson spitting the soggy remains of the glove into the gutter. Still giggling to himself about the defeat of the enemy, John walked between the great stone pillars at the entrance to the school grounds. He had gone no more than halfway to the main building when he heard Susan Buttercup calling him. She was standing near the jungle gym with some of her friends. Your turn.
"I've got something to show you, John," she shouted, and she came running to meet him. As she came running to meet him, he could see that she was waving something in his hand that flashed as it caught the rays of the sun. It was a silver dollar. It's a birthday present," she explained, showing him the dollar. "Isn't it beautiful?" The sight of such wealth made John forget the triumphs of his own day. It's a good present," he said. "Are you sure it's made of silver, though? I once got a whole bag of gold coins in a Christmas stocking, only they were chocolate coins covered with gold paper." "Of course it's real, silly," Susan said. "My daddy said so. You can feel it if you don't believe me." She handed him the coin. John looked at the coin suspiciously. "All right," Susan said. "Bite it if you think it isn't real. Go on, bite it." "I can see it's real now," he said. "I don't have to bite it, but I want you to." John insisted. "You weren't sure." "Well, make sure. That's what they do on television. When a cowboy wants to make sure a dollar's real, he bites it." John put the dollar about halfway into his mouth and
what's going to happen? Reluctantly bit it.
His teeth went right through the coin. The part that passed through his lips was hot but sweet chocolate. Susan could hardly believe her eyes. She had given John a complete circle of silver. He sadly handed back the present. John didn't know what to say. Susan couldn't speak. Tears trickled down her cheeks like rain down a window pane. He looked down at the piece of She looked down at the piece of dollar in her hand. He looked up at John, whose face was red with embarrassment. John made as Susan blurted out at last, "I hate you." She turned and ran away before John could think of anything to say.
Oh no. Now his friend is upset with him. He bit her special birthday coin. He handed her back a tiny piece. Oh no. John hung up his coat, got his notebook and pencil out of his locker, and sat down at his small table just in time for the second bell when Miss Plimsoll walked silently into the classroom. As soon as she appeared in the doorway, all the chattering and scuffling stopped. The 20 boys and girls sat straight in their chairs and looked straight ahead at the clean blackboard. "Good morning, children," Miss Plimsoll said. "Good morning, Miss Plimsoll," the class answered respectfully. Miss Plimsoll sat at her high desk, blinking her eyes as she surveyed the room. Then she opened a little drawer in her desk and pulled out a spectacles case from which she took her reading glasses. She removed her long-distance glasses, put on her short-distance glasses, snapped shut the spectacles case, replaced it in the drawer, shut the drawer, tilted her head forward so she could look over her glasses on her nose, and said, "This morning, children, we are going to have an important test."
There were some groans and a few oohs and ahs. Miss Plimsoll lifted up one of his hands, and silence was restored instantly. "No complaining, please," she said sternly. "This test will show me how well you have been learning your arithmetic this year. It'll be a short one. I am going to write just 4 problems on the board. I shall expect you to solve them all swiftly and accurately, and to write your answers neatly. You will place your paper in front of you now. You will write your name at the top right-hand corner, and then you will place your pencil beside your paper. Sit back in your chair and wait until I give the signal to begin work." Miss Plimsoll turned to the blackboard and began chalking up the test problems. Test always makes John nervous. Besides, his lips were feeling dry, and the taste of chocolate was strong in his mouth. "Yes, John?" Miss Plimsoll asked. "May I go and get a drink of water, please, Miss Plimsoll?" he asked in a small voice. "Very well, hurry back. We're going to start in a few minutes." John gratefully slipped out of the room and walked quite quickly down the corridor of the water to a water fountain. His tongue felt thick with chocolate. The cold water will be refreshing. He pressed his foot down the fountain treadle, and a stream of clear, ice-cold water spurted up from the silver nozzle in the white enamel basin. He lowered his head until a jet of water reached his lips. The cold water splashed delightfully against the outside of his mouth. He opened his lips. As soon as the water gushed in, it turned into ice-cold chocolate, thin and sweet. Quickly stopping the flow, John looked with dismay at the shallow pool that had formed and was now drained away in the basin of the fountain. He hurried to another fountain on the second floor of the building, but the same thing happened. The clear, ice-cold water turned to liquid chocolate in his mouth. When John finally got back to his classroom, and all the other pupils were bent over their tables, busily scratching away, Mrs. Plimsoll looked up from her book as John tiptoed in. She looked at the clock at the wall, looked back at him, and wagged her finger reprovingly. John began on the first of the 4 problems, but he was so worried about the chocolate water that he couldn't keep his mind on his work. By the time he was ready to start the 4th problem, the other boys and girls were already putting down their pencils and straightening up and smiling at each other. 2 minutes to go, said Miss Plimsoll, concentrating hard. John took the end of his pencil between his teeth and began to nibble it. It immediately turned to chocolate. Then he noticed an even more disturbing change. Although he had taken the pencil out of his mouth as soon as the first piece of chocolate had crumbled out, the pencil was continuing to change to
Change to? What do you think it's changing to?
chocolate.
Yes! The chocolate was slowly but steadily moving down the pencil, replacing the wood and the lead inside, changing it into a chocolate pencil before John's very eyes. The magic, for John now knew that his power must be magic, was apparently getting stronger. By the time the whole pencil had changed from red, yellow, and black to dark brown, Miss Plimsoll was announcing that only a few seconds remained in which to write down the final answer. Just a minute, John pleaded. Shh, Miss Plimsoll cautioned him, holding a finger up to her mouth. Shh, chorused the slow workers, who were becoming almost as excited as John. But John felt worst of all. He felt sure that he couldn't finish the problem and write down the correct answer. If only he had something to write with. But Miss Plimsoll, he begged in a loud whisper, my pencil's turned to chocolate. Hush, John, Miss Plimsoll said. I'll speak to you after the bell. John tried to write with his changed pencil, but the point was too soft, and he only succeeded in making a chocolate smear where he should have written 72. Oh boy, Langsha, what a day. Poor John. Do you think it's a magic power and it's getting stronger?
No, I think it's because he ate the special chocolate from the shop.
So what do you think is going to happen next? If before he just tasted it in his mouth, now things are turning into chocolate, what do you think will happen next? What do you guess?
He might turn everything into chocolate.
I think so. Just like King Midas, when he touched his daughter and his daughter turned into gold. I think everything John touches might turn to chocolate. Oh no. What about him? Do you think if he touches his face will turn chocolate? I wonder if his fingers will turn into chocolate. Oh, that would be terrible. You did a great job reading today. We'll have to read more next time. We're almost halfway through our book. You read so quickly. I'm so amazed. Nice job. What do you think so far? Good book so far?
Yes.
Would you like to have the power to turn everything into chocolate?
No.
No. Would you turn everything into jelly? Everything into lemon?
No.
What would you turn everything into if you could? I think I might turn everything into strawberry just for a day. Maybe.
I think I want to turn everything I touch
into
gold.
Gold? Everything into gold? Even your brothers? Oh no, we don't want to turn our brothers into gold. What about turning their toys into gold? That would be funny. If it only lasted just for a short time. If we could turn it into gold and then it would turn back the next day. That would be fun. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to turn everything into chocolate for one day, but I think I would get sick of it. I'd like to taste a different taste other than chocolate all the time. You did a great job reading today. Thank you for reading so well with me. You're a super reader. What are you going to do today now? You have the whole day. Do you have karate?
No. Karate is on Tuesday.
Ah. What do you do today?
In the karate camp
Did you go to the camp too?
Yes.
How was it? Did you learn a lot?
Yes. 3 hours. day.
3 hours. Were you tired? Uh-oh, your hairband.
No,
No? Oh, I remember your brother was very, very tired, but you weren't tired.
yes. And
What are you going to do today? Something fun?
clean the house.
Oh, that's fun. That's what I did today. I took time to clean the house, mop the floor, sweep. But then I also took time to put nail polish on to make it look like Santa Claus because it's almost Christmas. See? Oh, wait, where is it? There. My little.
We don't
Oh,
have a Christmas tree.
I have a Christmas tree.
We
You don't have a. No, you don't have a Christmas tree. I have a Christmas tree. I celebrate Christmas. It's on Friday.
The shop sold out of Christmas trees.
Really? Wow. You could make one out of paper if you really wanted to. They're just little trees. And then I decorate. This is my little Christmas tree. I have it all decorated with little tiny lights and little sparkles. And I didn't put any ornaments on it because I'm afraid I'll knock it down too easily. But my cat likes to sit under the Christmas tree. He thinks it's a real tree. It's just plastic. Poor cat. He likes it. He thinks he's outside. What are you looking? Oh, wow. Your screen looks so cool. Can you find a King Midas story on there? My epic doesn't look the same way as yours. I'm going to let you keep reading your epic stories. Have fun cleaning the house. And I'll see you.
I know Egyptian mythology and Norse mythology and Greek mythology.
Oh, you're reading Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and what else?
Egyptian.
Egyptian mythology. So smart. Very good. I wonder if there's a god of cleaning houses. There a Greek goddess that cleans houses that we can call on? She can come land and clean the house for us?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. Langsha, have a good day today. I'll see you later.
There's an Egyptian god of order.
There is an Egyptian goddess of cleaning.
God.
Ooh, an Egyptian god of cleaning. Ooh.
Of order.
Of autumn. Is that what you said? Of autumn.
Order.
Order. Egyptian god of order. Let me look. The Egyptian god of order. Oh. Let's see. The Egyptian god fought for order and justice. How did you find that so quickly? That's rather impressive. You found that quicker. You found that faster than I could find it. Wow. Well, I have some.
I didn't read it on Epic.
Oh, because you were reading it on Epic. I see. Ah, there it is. Magnus Chase. Have you read Magnus Chase? My son loved that book. That was his favorite. He read all of them. He liked them so much, I think they're still upstairs. Langsha, I will see you later. What is that one? Kane? Oh, the Kane Chronicles. I see it. But right now, I am going to go to bed because it is way past my bedtime.
And the Percy Jackson
There's Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief, and Percy Jackson and Olympus, and all the different Percy Jackson stories. I can't think of all of them anymore. Oh. I will see you when it's evening for you and morning for me. I'm going to go to sleep now. And I'll see you later for you. Bye, Elisha. Great
Bye.
reading today.
Hey, how the heck do you leave? Hey, leave.